Welcome to the Butterfly Chamber with J.R. McDonald. The thoughts and views expressed on this episode of the Butterfly Chamber does not reflect the views of any organization with which the hosts or guests may be affiliated with.
Hey, welcome to the Butterfly Chamber. I am J.R. McDonald, and we are back again. We're back at it again with the back at it again. And this is season 2, episode 2, and I'm really excited about this episode. I have a longtime friend, someone that I met when I first moved to New York City 12 years ago. You know, I was a budding flower. Just starting my life out and, just kind of rock and roll as I can. And I met someone that was, training, allowing people to see how they can put their best person forward, whoever that may be. And I was definitely in admiration for how they presented themselves. And I'm really excited for them to be on this episode and be in the chamber with us today because, when you come here, you kick off your shoes, you relax your feet, and we talk. We have conversation. We sit on the stoop. We give us a little drink. It depends on what you got going on. It's a Friday today, but, we're just saying it's going to be a good time. So with all that being said, this is like a reunion because it's been a while, actually. But I'm really excited. I'm excited to introduce to you and bring into the chamber Terry Jones. Hey, Terry.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good to see you. I'm doing well. It's so good to see you. It's been a long time.
It has.
It's been a long time.
It has been a long time. We have been doing so many ventures since that time and tapping in. And I've been really excited. I've been following your journey, and it's been great to see Trainer Terry in action.
Ain't that something?
Ain't it something? So tell the people before we go any further, yes. Because I know what I know and you know what you know, but tell the people who you are and what you would like for them to know about you and where can they find you?
Sure. I am a former exec and learning and development leader in corporate America. I have transitioned into being a career coach and strategist where I help people to get hired and get promoted, taking all that I learned in corporate America to extend that help to other people as a career. And you can find me on all social platforms, but mainly Instagram and TikTok at Trainer Terry Jones.
Yes, I live. And so helping y'all get promoted. So, all right, pause this wherever you are. Go tag a friend, tap a friend right now because we out here trying to elevate. And Trainer Terry has your back. We got to help the people. Is this community service?
To help the people. I think so. Listen, it's all free on TikTok and Instagram.
Come on now. And something about the word free motivates me, so I'm with it.
Indeed.
So it's draft season. That's what I'm calling this. As we are building our interviewing skills, we're trying to get promoted. We're getting to the bag. So Trainer Terry is going to help us get to that. So I got some questions here. And Terry, I don't know if you know this, but I also tapped in with some of the listeners. And I have a few that I tapped in with them that they want to know from you today. So I'm going to try and slide them in as well. So,
okay.
Terry, you mentioned TikTok, Instagram. So me looking at all that, you have over 200,000 followers across these social media platforms. So what do you think the masses or what about what you're putting out there has connected the masses to you? And what did you initially set out to accomplish?
Great question. I think probably having worked 20 years in L&D in learning and development and standing in front of people and developing curriculum and trying to understand how best to convey materials for people to learn and for it to be digestible. I think that's helped me out a lot in taking job interview questions and other tips and being able to put them in a format or using a formula where people can actually understand it. And when you are a trained sort of a corporate trainer, you learn how to be engaging and how to captivate people's attention if you want to have some level of success. So I think that's probably been helpful. And also, I think the actual demonstrations that I do, those are probably my most popular videos. When you have me on one side as the interviewer and on the other side as the person giving the interview.
I love that.
And so when people actually see a role play happening, again, it takes this idea of how to be great in an interview and it puts it in a tangible form where people can digest it and actually learn from it pretty easily. And also just doing it on a consistent basis. The people have to see your knowledge. They have to see that you know what you're talking about. They have to know, like, and trust you, and all of those things. And I think that's helped out a lot. Initially, I wanted to take how I got promoted because I had several significant promotions over the course of my career. So my first foray into using social media, I guess as sort of an organic marketing, was really to talk about my journey in getting promoted, because at the time I had written a book about how to help people to get promoted. And so I was doing that, but there was a greater demand for people wanting to know not how to get promoted, although I still do that. There was a greater demand for people wanting to know how to get hired. And so I made a pivot and started focusing more on giving people tips based upon my experience as a hiring manager and working in and around HR and all that good stuff.
Thank you for sharing that, because I definitely got some insight there. And what also, when I kind of think about those side-by-side videos or the interviewing, one of the things that sticks out to me when I'm watching your videos is not to take yourself too seriously. I mean business, but, not to take yourself too seriously. And I think sometimes when you're interviewing, you can sometimes not let your personality come across, and I think maybe that could be a detriment in an interview process. So what are your thoughts there? Because I don't know if that's intentional that you do that, but I just feel like you actually have this piece that comes across where it's just like, I'm not taking myself too seriously. Maybe you should use this in your interviewing skills as well.
Well, that's a really good point, because I do think that there is, it's really a trick, because many times in interviews, I'm like super nervous. But the way that I trick myself to not appear to be nervous is to appear to just be really calm and really friendly. So it's actually a tactic that I use, and I think I am subconsciously trying to convey that in the videos.
Got it. Oh, that's good. And what is the name of your book that you just mentioned? And is it still for purchase?
It is. You can get it on my website, but it's called The 7 Keys to Getting Promoted Faster: How I Went from Manager to Vice President in 14 Months.
Come on
basically,
now. Come on, VP. He got a bag.
So basically, it's just, it breaks down all the things that I had to do in order to be promoted. And because I have friends to ask all the time, how do I get promoted? And, what did you do? And even when I worked in companies, when you're working for a company, you can help people to a certain extent because you actually work for the company. But the wonderful part about being an entrepreneur and being a career coach, I can share everything that I want to do. I can help people how I want to help people without any limitations or even liabilities from a large company.
I love that. And it's actually very inspiring because, when you are working for a corporation, you are really answering for the questions or answering for what they have outlined for you. Coloring outside of those lines could mean some backlash. It could mean some issues, or maybe it may mean like, hey, let's have a conversation. Well, this is what we hired you for, actually. And I need you to do that. And that for a creative, or that for someone that's trying to meet a need that goes outside of maybe what that objective is of the company, can feel stifling, so I'm glad you shared that, because that's very illuminating.
And when you work in and around HR, you see a lot of the need from the employee's perspective, but you also really are there to protect the company from liability. And so there's simply things that you just can't do. And, that doesn't exist as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So you may notice in some of my tips, I get accused, oddly enough, in some of the videos when I'm doing demonstrations of being pro corporate. But if you really look at my videos, I'm pro employees, and it's because I have the space to be a pro employee. I'm not. I'm not advocating for corporations. I am advocating for the average person who has a life to live, who's trying to support their family, how to maneuver the corporate landscape. Some might say corporate bullshit, to be able to get the jobs that they want and to be successful.
I love that, and you need to have both sides, or at least know
Absolutely.
how to navigate that. And I think
Hmm.
sometimes, and even when I think for people of color, is that sometimes you don't have the disadvantage because when you go into these spaces, and this was not where we're intended to navigate, but we're navigating. But when you go into these spaces, you're one of one, in them, and you're managing so many biases and microaggressions that sometimes it's a system. And maybe the people that are there are not intentional, the leaders, but you're navigating so much simply just to exist. And
Right.
and you're there to do a job just like everyone else, but it's so many nuances that you're having to
Absolutely.
overcome.
Absolutely. And I think us as Black professionals, we do deal with the microaggressions, the things that we sense and know that's there because we are oftentimes one of one. And, it can be really interesting because some of us can compartmentalize it and still progress forward. Others
Yeah.
of us, we have a little more difficult of a time. And so my part of my goal in giving these tips is to help to show people that it can be difficult. I know that you may not present like me and you may have a different personality, but here's how I was able to maneuver it.
Mm,
Consider this or consider doing that. Still show up as your authentic self, but begin to develop what I call an extension of that authentic self, that where you can be true to who you are as a Black person, but still set yourself up to be successful.
yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that because one, let me help you land the job, and
Hmm.
two, how do you retain, how do you
Right.
keep, and then there's some things too, as you're navigating in corporate spaces or getting the job that you desire and want, is also, I think there is a piece of that, and we're going to talk about that soon, Chamber, where there's a piece of that where you have to know when your time has expired,
Mm-hmm.
and that expiration may not be bad. It's like any relationship. It just may mean that what you have done has come to the extent of his journey. And how do you continue? Because we're all growing and evolving. And what I
Hmm.
need to do in this next season may require me to do this on my own, where I'm the primary decision maker,
Hmm.
or I'm doing it with a not as much overhead and I have more liberty, to make
Hmm.
those decisions. So
Indeed, indeed.
love it, love it. So thinking about grabbing and catching that job or securing the job that you want, what
Mhm.
interview tips do you have for someone that is trying to land their next corporate role?
Good question. I think that you really want to get clarity on what it is that you want. Um, get clarity on what you want and really what you want to do.
Mm,
Oftentimes, I see people, they sort of are flailing from, oh, I'm going to try, oh, I think I want to do this, or I think I want to do that. And there's nothing wrong with having varied interests, but you want to isolate an industry, if you can, a job title, a function, and use that to actually put a plan together. Um, because once you do that, you ideally want to go about making yourself the ideal candidate for that particular job. And so that's going to require that you research the company, that you analyze the job description, that you are isolating transferable skills. So, what
mhm.
skills do you have now are going to work for this job that you've isolated and said that you believe that you're wanting? Then you're going to customize your resume and even your LinkedIn page. To show that you again are the best candidate. A lot of times I see people wanting a particular job, and because they know, well, I can do that. I have the skills to do that. But how do you show the person who's in that position that you are the ideal person? And all of that culminates, and to your point, to your question, the actual interview. And I think taking the time and researching the company and analyzing the job description, really practice typical job interview questions. I have another ebook. It's called The 20 Most Popular Job Interview Questions and Answers, where I take 20 popular questions, and very similar to my videos, but they're just in written form, with some tips on how to answer them. But an interview question and just a typical answer that usually follows some sort of structure to be able to answer the question. So I'd say be really practicing, in addition to the research, and aligning your personal brand assets with the job description, just taking time to answer questions, typical questions that are going to be asked in the job interview.
Got it. So what you're saying is that, because I heard a lot there, is that I just can't be using the same resume for every job that I'm applying for, even if it may not, like, hey, I'm looking to be a director of inclusion and diversity, or and I put that for every job, even though it says specialist and it says this, okay. And
yes.
Okay, and optimizing my LinkedIn, looking at my header, looking at what is some optimization that I should be looking at when I'm thinking about that? What's my tagline? What am I looking at there?
Your description. So because your LinkedIn page, it can be more of your actual professional story. So your resume gives, specific bullet points where you show the impact with some quantifiable value. Your LinkedIn can be more of your professional story. So it's really important connecting those dots. How are you the ideal person for this particular job in your story? LinkedIn has where you can actually put a banner in the back. What's your banner? You can go into Canva and design a banner that is reflective of who you are as an actual professional. And are there recommendations that you can get for other people to come and actually put that on your LinkedIn profile? Do you have certifications? Like, is your profile totally up to date? Have you taken the actual job description, run it through a program? I think it's called Free wordcloudgenerator.com. Don't quote me on that. Okay. But that will actually,
it's out there. Okay.
It's out there. That'll actually allow all of the major words that are attached to that particular job to show up on the screen. Are those words in your LinkedIn profile, so that when a recruiter is actually looking for that role, will you stand out? And so many people are going to job boards to find a job. But what are you doing to bring the jobs to you? Are you maximizing, like, what if you say you want to be a social media marketer? I should be able to go to your LinkedIn profile and see where you've actually made posts that gives your viewpoint on social media marketing. You should be following people who do the same thing. I should go to their page and see your comments in the section. You should put yourself in the space that you want to be in. So many people get frustrated because of what they feel like it's not happening. Oh, I can't get this job. And all of those things could very well be true. But it's important to see the glasses being half full versus being half empty, and literally taking the time to do all that you can with what you actually have.
Come on. Yes. Many times we don't have because we have not successfully told that story, because yes, you possibly can do it. And I believe in everyone out here that you can do it, but it's not in just you knowing that. How are you sharing that? How are you telling that? And most importantly, you got to get that hiring person, that hiring director to see that, oh, got it. I see this communicated in this resume. Not only in the resume, look at their posts. Look at some of the groups that they're working with, telling that story. Thank you so much. I get it.
You have to be that person that they're actually looking for. And what are you doing to make sure that you are appearing to be that person? Every person in the chain of getting hired, from the talent acquisition associate,
Yeah.
to the specialist, to the head of the department, to the head of HR. Every person in the line is simply looking forward at the next person to say, I got the right person for you. What are you going to do to make them proud to pass you off to the next person?
Got you. Because just as ready as you are for the role, they're ready to close the role. They're ready to say, hey, I'm ready for my next team member. I am ready to, go to the next level.
Yes.
So, got it.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yep.
And, one of the things I was thinking about when you just shared all that you have is the importance for us to take our career in our own hands. Mm-hmm. I have a career coach, and with that career coach, they have been on my butt with so many different avenues. And I love that we can have real conversation. But what they also have shared is that when you look on LinkedIn and how you're building your brand and your what you're putting out there, you have to make sure that it speak to what you're telling people you do. And two, if you're looking for a new gig, you're looking for consulting work, or if you're looking for your next job, you also have to recognize that 1 or 2 applications is not going to be it. You're not going to get it. Sometimes it takes 50 just to get 2 interviews. But that can be so daunting for our people out there because they want it now. They need it now. We're seeing, maybe just a year ago, we were talking about the Great Resignation, or we're seeing so many people that are being let off from their, their tech jobs right now. Yeah. And that's a lot because you need it today. And the reason you're let off is not because you weren't doing good work. It's many other things that are happening politically and so forth. But, what do you say for that person that's losing hope or that is wondering, I'm just putting all this out there, but I'm not really getting a ROI. I'm not getting a return.
Yeah. So I think the first thing that comes to mind is scarcity versus abundance. And oftentimes when they go into scarcity mode, you end up making decisions that's simply not in your best interest. So there's a part of, especially if you're a go-getter, there's a part of a go-getter that's satisfied by applying for 100 jobs. But if you were utilizing the same resume for said 100 jobs, all you are doing is now you're developing something else to impact on you feeling bad for yourself because it's simply not going to be productive. Again, you're going to feel good about those actually going through the process of applying for those jobs. But if you don't take the time to consider customizing your resume for some of those jobs, it's just unfortunately going to end up compounding on you already feeling bad. So, when you mentioned earlier about the 100 applications or you really want to take the time as much as you can. You don't necessarily customize your LinkedIn page and optimize that for every job, but you want to be able to give your LinkedIn page a theme for some of those jobs that you're applying for. But as many as those resumes as you can customize, I absolutely am an advocate of that.
Yes. Everyone, It is draft season. Your highlight reel must highlight that jump shot, that assist, that block. Indeed. Make sure that it's showing all the avenues that make you. That will be the best fit for your next role, your next opportunity.
And also make sure that you are able to articulate the impact that jump shot had on the game, on all the things that you have had at your previous job. So that's why it's important in putting your resume together that you are thinking in terms of impact and quantifiables and some sort of a figure, some sort of a number that can show here's how what I did was directly impacted or attached to the success of the company. Yeah. Whenever you're able to do that, those things stand out on on your resume. That's and they do really well for you and actually getting you through the door for interviews.
I love that. Thank you for putting that out there into the forefront. Absolutely. Because especially if your impact, and sometimes you're just thinking that, well, I don't do anything that generates money. If you're retaining talent and you don't have to worry about the turnover, you have to consider, how you've engaged associates or employees across networks, which cost the company this, or it did not cost them, this amount. It saved them. People want to see what you've saved them. And the bottom line, money matters. It speaks.
Absolutely.
So don't discredit yourself. Definitely put that value impact statement out there. Build that impact. Yeah, come on, expert. Oh, we're talking with the expert today, so I got to get ready. Let me straighten up a little bit here. Okay. All right. So we did talk about this. I consider myself, I don't know if you ever see the young gentleman that does TikToks with the corporate baddie, and he
Yeah,
gets a little flack.
DeAndre, is that
Yeah.
DeAndre? Yes.
So he was getting a little flack for certain things. But to me, it's funny and I crack up. But thinking in the corporate baddie mindset and, you're trying to level up and elevate, when is it appropriate? Because we're talking about interviewing and maybe you are not without a job, but maybe you're just ready for the next opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
When is it appropriate to leave your current role as a corporate baddie to find your next? What are some things that you should be looking at? It's Mental Health Awareness Month. What sticks out to me sometimes is when your psychological safety and your mental wellness is not balanced or it's not healthy and you're constantly thinking about how I'm showing up, if the words I'm saying are going to be twisted. You're thinking about work after work is over in ways that are not productive to you living a work-life balance life, or life-work balance is what I like to say. So from your lens, how do you know when it's time?
Well, listen, I definitely think that if a job is impacting you like mentally and it's causing you some trouble, like that is a serious red flag that you need to consider exiting as soon as you possibly can. There's, outside of mental health, there's some differing thoughts on that. Okay. I think some of it is generational because I do know that this younger generation, they just are not, they actually absolutely are prioritizing their mental health, and their thought process about staying at jobs like, maybe my generation, staying at a job really long time, getting those good benefits. You're going to leave that job with them good benefits.
Them good benefits.
Good benefits. Them good benefits. I think that, I think that's changed. And so I do think that, in terms of when you leave, ideally you want to have something else lined up. Because whenever you are looking for another job and you don't have one, and if you've ever been laid off, there is that financial strain and pressure that's put on your back that can be really tough to show up at an interview as your best self when you're worried about how you're going to get the rent or the mortgage paid. So ideally, when you have something else lined up, I think if you're in a position where there's some sort of unfair treatment that you're experiencing, that's an ideal time to try to, whether you deal with it internally, but you be thinking about what might be best for you next. If you are a go-getter and you are want to learn and you feel like you've maxed out on your learning curve and you don't see a lot of growth there, it's probably a good time to think about leaving. The job is simply no longer fulfilling for you. But again, I do think that that question can be generational, because I hear all the time, like the younger generation is really thinking about, okay, I'm gonna get to this job. I'm gonna be here for 2 years. Right. I'm gonna learn what I can, and I'm gonna move away from here. And so I think time will tell if that's a really good strategy or not. I think I'm probably somewhere in the middle that says that if this job works for you, if you are still learning, if you know where you ultimately want to be, and this job is not affecting you detrimentally mentally, if this job is fulfilling for you and you can maximize your learning here so that you can then go get this other opportunity that'll increase your salary, that'll increase your job title, that might be a better route for you.
Thank you for sharing that. So much to ponder and think on, because it's one of those things that, as I was listening to you share and we kind of talked through that, you have to be strategic. You have to have a strategy. And when we're thinking, I'm using this basketball reference or sports reference, but no one gets out onto the field or to the court without a strategy or a play. So when you're thinking about your career and your next move, what's your play? Where are you going? How are you connecting the dots? And how to make sure that you don't be in a deficit, in the process, but, make it work for you. It has to be
Absolutely.
sent to yourself. Companies, and I say this often, is that you have to be well because you're only, oh my gosh, when you think about your work, yes, you're there 40 to 50 hours a week taking care of your responsibilities, but that's only a fraction of who you are. You're so much more. And if that's impeding into how you're showing up in those other responsibilities or for yourself, then you definitely want to consider your next move.
And I would even add to this. I think it's also important, and I talk about this. You have to make sure that you see the separation between you and your job. Because especially in terms of mental health, when you blur the lines between you and your job, if your job is taken away, then who are you? If you've defined yourself on your job and it's gone, who are you? So I've always found a distance between where I start and stop and where my job starts and stops, because I am not my job. This is what I do. This is not who I am.
Got it. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. How do you, and now I'm putting a little piece of me in there, but for so many people that are doing, and especially we have a lot of women and people of color that listen in, but so many leaders are doing work that relates to their passion and their humanness, whether it's diversity officers or people that are working in community engagement or nonprofits. How do you separate that when what you do usually or sometimes is connected to your identity? How do you do that?
Got to watch it. Because ultimately, in jobs that are positioned that way, you measure your impact on how you're able to help people and help people in their lives to enhance their lives. But it is also the thing that is sustaining you. And whenever someone is in charge of pulling the lever on, that lets that check hit your bank every 2 weeks, that could be pulled away. And so if your passion is on helping people, you don't need a job to help people. You don't need a job title to help people.
Right.
If you want to help people, help people. But I am an advocate of understanding that there is a difference between who you are and what you do for a living.
Yes, yes. I love it. I love it. Let's take a listener email right now and tap into what they have. All right. This is from Lex. Lex asks, what tips do you have for someone that is trying to navigate an insecure supervisor that is intimidated by them? Thank you, Lex. We appreciate you.
Interesting.
None of us have dealt with this. None of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think that I guess the first thing the L&D HR side of me is thinking about documentation. So I absolutely whether they feel intimidated, whether we have some sort of disconnect in our relationship, if they can say or do anything that could impact my employment, I'm documenting our conversations. I'm giving it a date, I'm giving it a time, and I'm giving it a subject matter. And I'm keeping it in my notebook on the side at the bottom of my desk, right? Or in a folder if it's working remotely. But I absolutely will start to document those conversations. I also think just having a level of awareness surrounding how your boss is and how they show up and how they see you is also really, really important, because you want to know how you maneuver conversations with that boss, with people that are connected to your boss, and in the conversations that boss might hear that you're having. Because again, if they're feeling intimidated, they're listening for things to see you in a negative light about. And so that might actually mean increasing your communication with that boss. So if you are increasing your communication, it is possible that maybe that person is feeling insecure because they feel like they don't intimidated by you because, and I'm just throwing this out there, that they don't really have a total understanding of who you are. And so if you increase your communication, maybe they can see clearer about who you are as a professional and how you show up. And again, in terms of a paper trail and documentation, the more you communicate, you are creating that paper trail. In case something ever pops off, you can go to your notes, you can go to your email trail and show how you've actually been communicating with this manager who, is intimidated by you.
Yes. Thank you for that. Mm-hmm. Hope that's helpful, Lex. Back at it again. All right. So now I have a question thinking about corporate survival. And it's a marathon, not a sprint, thinking about the journey. What is a corporate survival skill you wish you knew sooner as you were coming into the game?
That's a really good question. Coming into the game, I literally thought that I was so idealistic. I just thought I'll just work really hard and I'll get rewarded because I'm working really hard and they'll see it. Right. Yeah. That's not how it happens. Every single promotion that I had to ask for it. Yep. And not only did I have to ask for it, I had to craft the strategy in order to make that happen. And so this idea that working hard, people are going to reward you for working hard. No, that is not going to happen. Working hard does not necessarily equal a promotion. You have to have a strategy to getting promoted, which is what I talked about in my book, The 7 Keys to Getting Promoted Faster, that there were 7 specific things that I focused in on and that I did in order to be able to make that promotion happen. And so I think if had I known that, I could have been a bit more strategic earlier on in my career, and I would have developed a strategy for the goal that I wanted. I would have empowered myself for where I wanted to go, and not just believing that because I worked hard that my boss would have my back and helping me to get there, because that definitely is not the case.
Thank you for that. That was you dropped some gems. All right. Are you down, Trainer
down.
Terry, for
I am.
The lightning round?
Yes.
Let's do it. All right. When you think CRT, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Critical race theory.
All right. When you think Whitney Houston?
Oh, Saving All My Love for You.
DEI.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
When you think about the world in 10 to 15 years, what are your thoughts?
Automated intelligence.
Come on, AI. And lastly, what is your favorite electronic device?
It has to be my phone. If you saw the hours that I spend on it, it is absolutely ridiculous. Like, there's only 24 hours in a day. I absolutely am embarrassed to tell you what my current daily hours on. It's just ridiculous. Let's just say it's a lot.
It's a lot. All right. So thank you so much for participating today in our lightning round.
Absolutely.
All right. We're going to bring it in now to our close. Thank you so much, Terry, for being with us today on the Butterfly Chamber. What I want to ask is, any last words that you have for our audience today that can help them or be tapped into what you're doing? Any last words?
Yeah, I would say, again, this idea of abundance versus scarcity. And sometimes when we are feeling, because we don't know, a layoff could happen tomorrow for a lot of us. So what can you do to maximize the possibilities with where you are? What can you learn? Know what it is that you ultimately want to do. Do your best to keep a positive mindset. Create a strategy for ultimately to where you want to be. And, try your best to see the glass as being half full.
I love that. I love that. And I know I said that was going to be the last, but I do have a question, because with all the gems that you dropped, and even just now, what motivates you?
I am motivated by my impact. That's the word that comes to mind.
Yeah.
How can I utilize the skills that I have to positively impact people that will positively impact the world, and do it in a way that allows me to live a life that is fulfilling for me.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It was so awesome to be reunited and to hear from you, hear your lens, and just to see where you are today in 2023. I am rooting for you. I know that when I root for you, that means that others are being elevated because you are touching so many people. So thank you for all that you are doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And I just want to let your audience know that, when I was a corporate trainer and JR was in my class, he was studious, he was inquisitive, and it was obvious that he was a go-getter, and really wanted to learn as much as he could. So it is not surprising to me at all that he's done as well as he has, and that he has a podcast helping other people. Not surprised at all.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So everyone, I'm going to leave you with an affirmation for today, because, it's so important. So your affirmation for today is: I am loved, I am healed, I am well, and I am doing and being who God created for me to be. Your quote for today is: whoever falls from God's right hand is caught into his left. You're always in his hands. Everyone, take care. I hope to see you soon, and let's do it again. Tell a friend.
It's the Butterfly Show with JR McDonald.